So, Amar Rabbah, so Rabbi Dosa made the point of making this condition when it's Rosh Hashanah, and when you daven, you say if today's the first day, relating to Rosh Chodesh, and if you mention Rosh Chodesh, but you make a Tanai, if today's Rosh Chodesh, then Hachitzena B'Yom Rosh Chodesh. Is that if it's tomorrow, then you make the reference to the next day. And vice versa. Both days you make that tonight. So there are two aspects to the Chiddush of Rabbi Dosa. One is that you were adding Rosh Chodesh to Rosh Hashanah, and the other Chiddush that he mentions that you can make a condition about that aspect, about that mention. So Amar Rabbah, Kavinam Bei Rav Huna, when we were in the yeshiva of Rav Huna, Boilon, it was asked to us, Ma'u lahaskir shel Rosh Chodesh Rosh Hashanah. What's the story about mentioning Rosh Chodesh on Rosh Hashanah? Given the Chalukim Musaf and Aminon, do you say they are distinct regarding their kabbalah? So one reference to Rosh Hashanah is something that covers both aspects. Let's see, I guess all these Rashis. Yeah, I don't think it did the Rashis, right? So let's see the Rashis. Kivna Chalukim b'Musafin Shemakrivin Musfi up on top, second narrow line. Do you say that you offer the Musaf Rosh Chodesh Musaf Rosh Hashanah Kediksiv Muvad Olas HaChodesh, right? As the pasuk says explicitly, besides the special oila of Rosh Chodesh, you also offer the oila of Rosh Hashanah. Amrina b'Tfilah Nami Es Yom Rosh Chodesh Hazeh V'Es Yom Hazikaron Hazeh. Or do you say, no, Zichron Echad, next Rashi, as Yom Zichron Hazeh, Rachmana Kari Zichron. The Torah calls Rosh Chodesh also a Zikaron. The Zichron Shura, well, it called Rosh Hashanah, here, as Yom Zichron Hazeh, Rachmana Kari Zichron, right? Certainly, Rosh Hashanah, when we mention Rosh Hashanah, we're mentioning Zichron Shura. The Zichron Shura, Rosh Chodesh Nami Ksiv, Vayul Lachem Zikaron, should be for you a remembrance. So the word Zikaron is certainly applicable in both days. So maybe one Zikaron of Rosh Hashanah covers Rosh Chodesh as well. So you could kill two birds with one stone. So what's the story? What do you do? So clearly we don't, but that's obviously at the end of this whole discussion with all the Rishonim, then we don't. But now we're going through the thought process of what the basis of that decision is. So he says, so let's see here. So Amalani answered back. So we were asked that Shaila, and now we answered back. I guess Rav Huna was there. And I guess I don't know who asked it. He asked and he answered it, or somebody else asked it and he answered it. He says, Amalani, he told us, Tanisua. The answer seems to be a Mishnah. Why? Rabbi Daisa, Teva. So you're standing in front of the Teva, and you make the condition today, if today's Rosh Chodesh, or if tomorrow's Rosh Chodesh. My lav la'askir. So, and what happened at the end of that conversation? The Rabbanon didn't agree. Rabbanon argued with him. So, my lav l'chayr, what's the machlek is that the Rabbanon said, no way, we're not going to buy into your mahalach. My lav lahaskir says lo lahasnos. The answer is the Tanai is what I'm arguing. I'm not arguing with the mentioning. I'll be masking that you mentioned. Maybe there's no machlekes between Rabbi Dosa and Chacham that you do mention Rosh Chodesh. The only issue is going to be, is this Tanai acceptable? So we're saying that no, that's the issue was not the mention. So we're going to maintain at this point. Everyone agrees you do mention. The only question is, do you mention it straight out without a Tanai, or do you mention it with a Tanai? I'll even bring a raya to that effect. Midik Tanim Bebraisa, as it says in the Brayso, V'china Yerubdosa Osa Brosha Chadashim Shakol Shona Kula. Rabbi Dosa says we do the exact same thing, not knowing whether it's a 30-day month or a 29-day month, and therefore you make the condition because you didn't know what to do, you didn't know what the story was. So instead of the other side of the coin of saying no, you say Rosh Chodesh on both days. If you don't know for sure, you just say as if it's Rosh Chodesh. And the Chum did not agree. Now, Could this be the issue of mentioning it? That can't be. If they're arguing about the aspect of making the condition, well, now it's very good. Why? It's very good. Why? There's a point of contention in between the Chacham and Rabbi Dosa about Rosh Chodesh all year round. It's very good to see that there's an issue. Ella, Eli Amrit Lahaskir, second wide line on Memon Amid Aleph. Eli Amrit Lahaskir, but if the issue is the mere mention, and that's what the Rabbanan were arguing about, Amai Lo Hodalo. So why would there not be an admission? Of course, you mention Rosh Chodesh. You don't know which day it is. You got to cover yourself and mention both days. He says. So he says you proved your point. You proved that there is a machlokes about tonight. Very good. So what do you say? You're going to try to argue back. You're trying to maintain, based on your argument, that the issue between the Tanoim is only about the tonight and not about the mention, that there's no machlokes about the mention. That's what you're trying to maintain to me. Well, then why do I need two cases where they argue? I have the Mishnah that tells me they're arguing by Rosh Hashanah. I have the Brisa that tell me they're arguing by all the Rosh Chodoshim. What do you need two cases for? Must be that you're not right, that there is a machlokas by Zechira, and there are two issues. They're arguing about Zechira based on the Rosh Hashanah Brisa, and they're arguing about Tanai based on the Rosh Chodesh Brisa. But to say that there is only one machlokas, namely about Tanai, he says, why would I need two different points of reference to have the machlokas about? Just tell me one, and we're good. Let's just catch up on the Rashis for a minute. It says, so do you say, so my love, when we brought in the Brisa of Rosh Chodesh, my love, that when they didn't admit, it was about the mention, the Rosh Chodesh. That was a proof we brought from our Mishnah. To which Gemara says, no, you have no proof about the Rabbanan holding you don't mention Rosh Hashanah, you don't mention Rosh Chodesh on Rosh Hashanah, which is what we thought we were going to prove. No, the Machlokas in the Mishnah is about Lahasnos, Imayoim Im L'Machar. Right? They don't like that language. If today is Rosh Chodesh and we're saying it today and tomorrow shouldn't count, that whole thing is what they don't like. Say it stam, and so too tomorrow. Just say it as if it's definitive, even though it's not definitive. It's good enough, and that's the right way to do it. This whole half-baked thing doesn't work with the Rabbanan. What? Gemara says what? And there's no machlokus about. The first step is let's prove that the machlokas about Tanai. Av b'shar chadoshim. Let's see. Av b'shar chadoshim. I think that's weiter. Yeah, that's weiter. Okay. So we're up to now. The Gemara is trying to prove that there is indeed 2 points of contention between the Chachamim and Rabbi Dosa. Okay, we're on the third wide line of Amendment on Aleph. Okay, not the easiest Gemara to just dive in the middle of, but we'll make the best of it. So the point is that aren't I proving to you right now, if I have 2 different brises, one by Rosh Hashanah and Rosh Chodesh, which is a Mishnah, and the other one by Rosh Chodesh, and they're arguing about both, must be one is speaking about the issue of the mere mention, and the other Bryce is arguing about the issue of the Tanai. Because if you're talking about the same issue, which is Tanai, which is what the Gemara wants to propose, that there is no double machlokas, there's only one issue about Tanai, then why do you have to have 2 cases for the same point? To which Gemara now says Tzricha. No, I need 2 cases to teach me the exact same point. Why? Meaning that there's 2 cases where Rabbi Dosa and the Chum argue about Tanai. Why do I need 2 cases? The Ashmina Rosh Hashanah, if I only had the Rosh Hashanah case where there's a machlokas between Rabbi Dosa and the Chum about making the Tanai and Rosh Hashanah Avamina, I would have thought, the law maybe only here the rabbis say you can't make it Tanai. Why not? The law that you cannot, Mishum Dasil Zazulei Beit. Because the minute you start making Tanais about Rosh Hashanah, the average person is going to say, I okay, see, it's not so clear. So we can do malacha. It's not 100%. You're making conditions. If today is not. Oh, so today might not be. So you can easily come to cheapen the perspective and the appreciation for the yontif. Ava b'Rosh Chodoshim shel kol hashana kula, but where it's Rosh Chodesh the rest of the year, where it's not a day where it's an issue of zilzal, you're allowed to do work on Rosh Chodesh. There's no zilzal factor. Maybe they say today is fine to make it tonight. What am I worried about? You're going to come to cheapen Rosh Chodesh. There's not much to worry about. Okay, so if I only had the machlokes by Rosh Hashanah, I would say only there's a machlokes. But everyone agrees to Rabbi Daisa by Rosh Chodesh, and the converse. V'yitmar boha. If I only had the machlokes by Rosh Chodesh, boha Rabbi Dosa. Maybe Rabbi Dosa only maintains a Tanai concept by Rosh Chodesh of Bahach, but when it comes to Rosh Hashanah, where there's a zilzal factor, imamodal rabbanon tricha. So you clearly need both cases. I would not be able to derive one from the other. So maybe my assertion right now is absolutely true. The Gemara is still maintaining its assertion that there is no machlokes about between Rabbi Dosa and the Chachamim about mentioning Rosh Chodesh on Rosh Hashanah. Indeed, everyone will agree you do. The only machlokes is, do you make the condition or do you not make the condition? Do you state it as an absolute fact that today's Rosh Chodesh, but you mention it, or do you make it on it tonight? But on the issue whether you mention it or not, right now we're going to maintain that everyone says you do indeed mention it. Okay, let's catch up on the Rashis. Maybe the other days where there is malacha, permissible. There's no issue of not doing work. There's no issue of cheapening it. The cheapening is not just about attitude. It's about the fact that you might end up doing malacha on Rosh Hashanah. Maybe there's an admission there that you don't make it tonight. So the Gemara's position right now is: do you mention Rosh Chodesh on Rosh Hashanah? Yes. What's the machlokas between Rabbi Dosa and the Chachamim? It's about tonight. Do I need two cases for the same issue? Yes, you do. And let's proceed. Okay, so Meisvei, back to the Gemara. Let's see if we can shake this position, because we all know that we don't mention Rosh Chodesh on Rosh Hashanah. Let's see how this all unfolds at the end of the Gemara. So Meisvei, let me ask you a question from a Brisa. Rosh Hashanah Shechalius B'Shabbos. Rosh Hashanah falls out on Shabbos. Beishamai Mispalo Eser. So, how many brachas do we make in the Musaf of Rosh Hashanah? Right, we have Malchios, Zechronos, and Shofros. Right, so it's three brachas in the middle, and of course every Shemona Esrei has three in the front and three in the back. So that never changes. There's always a starting point of 6, and the question is how many more do you add? So of course we add 3 more for Musaf of Rosh Hashanah. We add 3 brachas for a total of 9. But if it's Shabbos, okay, if Rosh Hashanah falls out on Shabbos, Beishamai says, Mispal Eser, you actually make 10 brachas, meaning you put in a special paragraph and a special bracha just for Shabbos. Okay? Obviously we don't do this, but that's what he holds you're supposed to do. Beisil says, no, Mispal Teisha, which is what we do. We maintain the 9, and we throw Shabbos in along for the ride. We throw it in along the way, but there is no special reference to Shabbos as a standalone bracha. Now, so what's the proof? So if you're right that everyone agrees that there is a special need to mention Rosh Chodesh or any other special day, it's a sort of a philosophy. Do you give special aspects of the day a separate bracha, or do you sort of just roll it into one? Now, clearly, Beis Shammai says you do. It's Mispal Eser. Okay, V'yimisa Beis Shammai achas esrei b'boilei. So once right. So the point is, what was our question? Our question is, do you add Rosh Chodesh on Rosh Hashanah? Well, here Shabbos falls on Rosh Hashanah, and what does Beis Shammai say you add? You add a separate bracha for Shabbos. What happened to Rosh Chodesh? How come not adding a special bracha for Rosh Chodesh? So it must be that there is no mention of Rosh Chodesh, because l'chayra, if there was a special mention, Beis Shammai would have said add a bracha. Beis Hill would have said you roll it into the existing middle 3 brachas. Somewhere along the way, you throw Shabbos, you throw Rosh Chodesh, and just like you throw Shabbos, Beis Shammai should maintain that you give an extra bracha. Must be that there is no special reference to Rosh Chodesh on Rosh Hashanah. Because then why wouldn't Beis Shammai maintain a separate bracha for this? So you got a pretty solid proof. Let's see the Rashis. Mispal Eser. Sholem Shoshonos v'Gimel Achronos, which are constant, the 3 first and the 3 back. V'Shol Shabbos b'fnei atzma. And now you have a separate bracha of Shabbos by itself. Harei Sheva, that's 7. U'Kedusha Yom, U'Kedusha Yom v'Kol Imo Malchos. Right, then of course you're making the bracha on the actual Rosh Hashanah, and you throw in Malchios together with it. Harei Shemaina v'Zechronos v'Shofros, and of course the Zechronos which have its own bracha and the Shofros which have its own bracha. So that would make that's 10, and that's Beis Shammai's position that you have a special bracha for Shabbos, and the other 3 of Rosh Hashanah, and that gives you the 10. Beisil Omer Mispal Teisha, the Koil Shabbos V'Yontiv B'Bracha Achas. He does not buy this notion that Shabbos should get its own bracha. If Rosh Hashanah is a 9 bracha tefillah, 9 bracha musaf, it says a 9 bracha musaf. V'Chaysim Mekadosh Shabbos Yisrael V'Yom Zikaron, and that's what we do. Right? We follow Beis Hillel. You end with Shabbos and Rosh Hashanah. But here's the issue: whatever happened to Rosh Chodesh? Right, that's the whole issue how we started today with. Do you have to make a mention of Rosh Chodesh on Rosh Hashanah? V'yemisa Damascus Rosh Chodesh Beis Shammai, the boy lechol chad bracha from the Atzmo, Yud Alf mi boy there should be 11, there shouldn't be 10, there should be 11. So we can prove from Beis Shammai and from there extrapolate over to Beis Hillel and everybody else that there is no special mention. So the way you resolve the Shaila was inconsistent with this brisa, because you want to resolve it that the whole machlokas is about. The original intent was that the machlokas is by mentioning, but then we came back and said no, it's about tonight. So the last position of the Gemara, the last stated position is there's only machlokas about tonight. There's no machlokas about zikara, and everyone says you do mention it. This brisa seems to say you don't mention it. So what are you going to do? So Amalei Reb Zera says you can't compare apples and oranges. There's a big difference between our Shaila, which is mentioning Rosh Chodesh on Rosh Hashanah, to the Shaila of Rosh Chodesh here. Let's see. Reb Zera Shani Rosh Chodesh mitoch shekolel l'shachris v'arvis kol nami mesafin. Okay, because Rosh Chodesh, in the case that we're dealing with in this brisa, is Rosh Chodesh that fell out on Shabbos. Let's see here. Rosh Chodesh. No, it was Rosh Hashanah. It was Rosh Chodesh, of course, obviously as well, and it was Shabbos. So let's see the point. Shani Rosh Chodesh. Rosh Chodesh is different in what regard? Mitoch shekolel l'shachris v'arvis kol nami b'musafin. Since you're already mentioning it as sort of a throw-in for Shachris and Arvis, Mincha too, but Mincha is just left out, whatever, because it's just obvious, but it really should be in as well. So since you include it in Shachris and Arvis, you're going to include it in the Musafim as well. Let's see what his point is. Let's see Rashi. I'll tell you, you really do have to mention it. The idea of having to mention Rosh Hashanah, Rosh Chodesh on Rosh Hashanah is a fact. We're not going to back away from that yet. You do mention Umiyu. So what's the point here? Why is there no separate bracha? Miyu leBeis Shammai bracha b'anfei nafshei Rosh Chodesh lo'boy. So while there is an issue of mentioning it, there is no issue of giving an extra bracha. So we're splitting the difference. We're saying that everyone says you do mention it, but there'll be universal agreement. You don't give it its own bracha. Why not? Okay, it's not because the Zikaron of Rosh Hashanah already covers the remembrance of Rosh Chodesh, and you don't need 2 remembrances, of the same ilk. We're not going to say that. The mashma, the kivin Rosh Hashanah who, Hainu Rosh Chodesh, which would imply that Rosh Chodesh and Rosh Hashanah is one of the same. The Avinami Shabbos Rosh Chodesh. So, for example, if it was also Shabbos and Rosh Chodesh, v'la Rosh Hashanah, and not Rosh Hashanah, lo'boy le bracha of the Atzma. You would not need a bracha by itself. Elochaisim mekadosh Shabbos Yisrael Rosh Chodashim. Right? Wouldn't you grant that? Everyone seems to grant that when Shabbos is Rosh Chodesh, right? What do? We don't make it a separate bracha. We roll it into one. We say Mekadosh Shabbos Yisrael Rosh Chodoshim. Vilkach. So once that's the standard way of dealing with Rosh Chodesh on a Shabbos, not Rosh Hashanah. So the Hilkach Rosh Hashanah Nami Chaysim Mekadosh Yisrael V'Yom HaZikaron Rosh Chodoshim. We're going to end the same way. We're not going to give it its own separate bracha. We're going to end with Mekadesh Yisrael V'Yom HaZikaron Rosh Chodesh, but we will mention it. V'Yavagav the B'Shabbos Rosh Hashanah B'Oy L'Chol Chad Bracha V'Nei Atzmo. And even though Beis Shammai maintains Shabbos Rosh Hashanah do get its own bracha, so why is Rosh Chodesh playing second fiddle? If Shabbos gets its own bracha and Rosh Hashanah certainly gets 3 brachas, why wouldn't Rosh Chodesh fall into that category as well? Rosh Chodesh moded the mitoch shekol berchasa b'toch berchas hayom shachos v'arvis afil b'shar shabbosos. Okay, that since by definition the rest of the year when Rosh Chodesh and Shabbos fall out on the same day, we are going to throw Rosh Chodesh in to the mix without its own bracha. Even on other Shabbos, that he vade afilu Beis Shammai pshitalon, because that for sure, even in Beis Shammai, who has no problem in throwing in special brachas, lo boil chol chad bracha latzmo. Okay, that you do not in that situation require bracha for itself. Why not? Iavi mikol b'chol ein lo bracha shachos v'avis. Right, because if it happened in the weekday, if Rosh Chodesh falls out on the weekday, we don't give it its own bracha in the morning and in the evening. Right. We just say Yal v'Yavo when we just keep rolling along with 19 brachas, and we don't add a 20th bracha for Rosh Chodesh. So since that's a structure of the rest of the week when it comes to Rosh Chodesh, when that same Rosh Chodesh falls out on Shabbos, I feel a man da'am l'kamanda b'Shabbos omet karinon the Rosh Chodesh b'avoda ela b'birchas hayom. Okay, even if you're going to say that on Shabbos it does not get mentioned in Yalav V'Yavo, but rather gets mentioned in the actual bracha of Shabbos, Mekadesh HaShabbos Rosh Chodoshim, so Rosh Chodoshim. So there might be machlokas about where you mention it, but it's universally going to be agreed upon. You don't give it its own bracha. Okay, because why? It doesn't get its own bracha the rest of the week either. So Michal Hu Dechaylin and V'Lav V'Nei Atzmo. You either way, you roll it along with the other bracha, with the regular Shemon Esrei, and you don't give it its own bracha. So therefore, the Gemara is saying that Reb Zeir is maintaining that you haven't proven anything, because Rosh Chodesh, when it comes to its own bracha, is never going to get its own bracha. Our issue is not, the Shaila today wasn't, does Rosh Chodesh get its own bracha? Our Shaila today, as we started this morning, was, does Rosh Chodesh get mentioned in Rosh Hashanah? Right? It's a different point. If you mention Rosh Hashanah, do you also have to mention Rosh Chodesh, or do you say you're already, it's like B'chal Masayman, it's already included in Rosh Hashanah. Rosh Hashanah is Rosh Chodesh, and to a certain degree, so you don't have to mention it. But so you can't prove it from the fact that it does not get its own bracha, because Rosh Chodesh will never get its own bracha, because it is a bracha that by definition throughout the year is michlal, it's rolled into the rest of the Shemon Esrei, so therefore when it comes to Musaf, it's going to be rolled in as well. Okay, but our shiloh still stands, or our position to answer the shiloh could still be true, that everyone agrees you do mention Rosh Chodesh on Rosh Hashanah. Where do you mention it? Within the davening. Mekadesh Yisrael V'Yom HaZikaron Rosh Chodoshim. Maybe that's what we do. Okay, we don't, but maybe that's what we do, and we're able to still maintain that position now, and nothing about Beis Shammai changed that point. So let's finish up this issue. Koil Nami Musafa, next Rashi. Beis Shammai. So I'll tell you, Beis Shammai maintains since the rest of the year we're going to be do koilel with Rosh Chodesh when it comes to the rest of the week and when it comes on Shabbos. So Kol HaMusafin LeBeis Shammai v'Yafagav Debechol Islay Bracha v'Musafin La'atzmai. But even though the rest of the year by Musaf, right, on a weekday it will get its own bracha, right? We do say Musaf. And we do mention Rosh Chodesh by itself in that situation, right? Mekadesh Yisrael Rosh Chodoshim. We say every Rosh Chodesh. Okay, but here we're going to roll it along with the rest of them. Since it's already rolled into it for Shachris and Arvis. Avashar Yom Tovim, but other Yom Tov days, the Islu Bracha Arvis V'Shachris, which has its own bracha of Shachris and Arvis of Yom Tov, regarding Mekadosh Yisrael V'Yazmanim, he says, Ki Mikla B'Chol, if that, when it comes out on a weekday, Yontif, Pligi Beishamai, Bahani Pligi Beishamai, Ki Mikla B'Shabis, Umatrach Bracha L'Atzman B'Chol Tfilosehem. Okay, 1 second. He says, one more time. Even though, yes, it does have a bracha of Musaf by itself, here we're going to not give it its own bracha, because you're already rolling it into Shachris and Arvis, and therefore there's no reason why Musaf should be any different. And Musaf also, during Musaf, you're saying Musaf Rosh Hashanah, you're going to throw in Rosh Chodesh into that mix. Avashar Yomim Tovim.
Is it possible that because that by Musaf we don't say it within Ritzei? Is that what it means by the Cholol?
Well, what do you mean?
It doesn't make any sense. But Rosh Chodesh, it has its own Musaf. So I'm just trying to figure out what it means. We're not kolel. It's like it has its own bracha. Well, of course, it has its own bracha. We're doing the entire musaf for it. But will
you do musaf? No. Well,
we're just talking about Rosh Chodesh by itself, right?
Yeah. No. But well, of course, that's what he said. No, that's how he started. Like what you just said.
Right.
It's its own musaf and its own bracha. Hacha. When it comes to Shabbos, when you have, here you have Rosh Hashanah and Shabbos, right? So here we have.
We're not still in Chol.
Well, I mean,
I'm sorry. No, the Hacha right doesn't apply to Chol, but
yeah, it doesn't apply to Chol. It applies to either Rosh Hashanah or Shabbos, right? V'tan Rosh Chodesh. 1 second. Mitoch shekol shachris v'arvis kol nami musafin. 1 second. Yeah, I mean that's what Rashi was saying before. Yimakadosh Shabbos v'Yisrael Rosh Chodashim. Well, let's just finish the Rashi for a minute. So he says, Rashi's bothered that since the rest of the year you're going to be koilel Rosh Chodesh in Ma'ariv and Shachris, you're also going to be koilel over here. Okay. So now, but Rashi he does have a time where that has its own bracha. But here, in the case we're dealing with, where it's Rosh Hashanah, I think would be the same for Shabbos. Okay, since you're not giving it its own bracha for Shachris and Arvis, you're not going to give it its own bracha for Musaf as well.
Sorry, so this part goes on the Chol or it goes on Shabbos? This part by Chol Shachris v'Arvis.
By Shabbos.
Okay.
Right. He says Hoyel Kol Shachris v'Arvis. Avashar Yom Tovim, but other Yom Tovim the Islay bracha Arvis v'Shachris, right, where you have your own bracha of Yontif, nighttime and on Shachris time, right? And when it's Pesach, we're gonna give it its own Shemon Esrei. We're not going to be koilel it. We're not going to throw Yontif into a Shabbos mode. We're going to have Yontif by itself. Ki mikla b'chol. Okay, when it falls out on the weekday, when it's that special quality that it has its own Shachris and Yontif, Shachris and Ma'ariv davening. That's where you argue. But Rosh Chodesh doesn't have that quality. There's never a Ma'ariv for Rosh Chodesh. Right, you only throw it into Yalav Yavo. You don't give it its own quality. You don't give it its own identity. So Kimikloi B'chol, when that ability of a day that it gets its own nighttime and Shachris davening, when that aspect comes out on Rosh Hashanah, Kimil B'chol Bahani Pligi Beishamai. Kimikla b'Shabbos. So if you get your own davening when it's chol, that's where Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel will argue what happens when that falls out on Shabbos. And there you're going to need a bracha for itself. B'chol tefilosayim in all of their tefillos. So when you reach that threshold of significance, that when you have your own Ma'ariv, like Shabbos does and like Yontif does, so when those days fall out at on an overlap to another situation, do you get your own Yontif? Do you get your own bracha? Do you not get your own bracha? Shabbos falls on Rosh Hashanah. All year round, Shabbos gets its own Ma'ariv. Shabbos gets its own Shachris. So Shabbos gets its own bracha in Musaf according to Beis Shammai. According to Beis Hillel, no, it's already too much. We'll roll it into Musaf. We won't mention it by itself, even though it does get it. But Rosh Chodesh never gets its own Ma'ariv, never gets its own Shachris. And therefore it will not have the ability to get its own bracha when it comes to Rosh Hashanah. But our original issue is not affected. Our original issue is to even mention Rosh Chodesh and Rosh Hashanah, to even throw it in the mix. That we haven't resolved yet. Okay, so really, says the Gemara, so you're basically saying the kailul factor is what gets Rosh Chodesh out of the mix. Umi Islay. So says the Gemara, Umi Islay Lebeis, back to the beginning of third line. Umi Islay Lebeis Shammai Kailul. Does Beis Shammai indeed hold of Kailul? Vatanya Rosh Chodesh Shechalius B'Shabbos. Don't we have a brayso that says that Rosh Chodesh that falls out on Shabbos? Beis Shammai Omer Mispal Shmeina. Oops. Beis Shammai says you say 8. According to what we just finished saying, you should say 7. Beis Hillel Omer Mispal Sheva. And Beis Hillel says you have to only say 7. Sakasha. Okay, that you got me. Sort of a little bit of a checkmate here. Even though from a kasha it doesn't say tiyufta, and it's not even a double tiyufta, so a famous expression that I heard from my Rebbe, from a kasha start man nicht. You don't die from a question. Okay, you have a question, good. So, this is a question you die from or you don't die from. It doesn't seems like maybe you can come back from this question. But the question is clear that you're wrong. That you're just telling me that Beis Shammai, because of the kailul factor, that since we rolled it into other brachas the rest of the year, we're going to roll it into Musaf, we're going to roll it into Rosh, like Shabbos, for example, Rosh Chodesh followed on Shabbos should be the same thing here. But Farish says if Shabbos or Rosh Chodesh overlap, Beis Shammai says you have 8. That flies against your whole initial answer that you just gave me just now. Look at Rashi. Umislei Beis Shammai kailul bebirchas musafim shel Rosh Chodesh dikla b'Shabbos. Do you say that since Rosh Chodesh gets rolled into Shachris and Ma'ariv the rest of the year, we roll it into Shabbos as well? Really? I'm Mispal Shmeina. Rosh Chodesh v'Shel Shabbos musafim kamar. You see in Musaf it gets its own identity. Kasha. You got me. Okay. I'm checked. Okay, Ushmamina. So Rashi now finishes up, and we see from here, Kiv the Bishar Shabbos Kaboya Beis Shammai Brach Rosh Chodesh. Okay, so now what's the domino effect? Since indeed we rejected the kailul point, Rashi seems to say this is a definitive checkmate, right? That since on Shabbos, when Shabbos falls out of Rosh Chodesh, that Beis Shammai indeed does need a separate bracha. Rosh Hashanah loy boy. But Rosh Hashanah, he does not need a separate bracha. We haven't quoted saying that you make 10 brachas, but you don't make 11 on Rosh Hashanah, right? You make the 3 plus Shabbos plus the 6. That's 10. What happened to the 11? What happened to Rosh Chodesh? The time is the current Rosh Hashanah must be that the reasoning is, like we said at the beginning of this Gemara, that once you cover the remembrance of Rosh Hashanah, it covers the remembrance of Rosh Chodesh. It's overkill to mention it twice. Ushmamina afilu mechaleh v'adkurei nami lo binan showing that afilu mechaleh v'adkurei nami lo binan. So even if you want to roll it in and mention it, you don't do it. You don't roll it in. You don't do anything along those lines. Rosh Chodesh is completely not That. In other words, you don't even do it because that's what the Gemara maintained, that you kailul it and you mention it. And now he's proving even that you don't need. Just complete ignore Rosh Chodesh on Rosh Hashanah, which is exactly what we do. It is Rosh Chodesh, and yet we're not going to mention those words at all throughout the entire davening. Okay.
Based on Mikdash, when we were doing sacrifices, there was a Rosh Chodesh sacrifice, there was a Shabbos sacrifice. I mean, that's where Musaf comes from. So, I assume there's also Rosh Hashanah's sacrifice.
Yeah, that's how we started the Gemara today. That do you say because it's separate karbanos, it deserves its own mention?
Well, did they do the Rosh Chodesh on Rosh Hashanah? Did they do the
yes, that's the one. That's one side of the shaila. That's how we started. Do you say since it's a separate carbon for Rosh Chodesh, a separate carbon for Rosh Hashanah, you mention each one by itself? What do you say since it's a zichron, it's a remembrance, and each one is called a remembrance? One's zichron shura, one's Yom Zikaron. So Zikaron, you throw one Zikaron into everything and it's one remembrance and you roll it all into one. And that's how we end up. That's what you do. That you don't take the Karbonos factor, you take the Zikaron factor. It's one word that covers both, and indeed there's no need.
The Karbonos factor for everything else, though. In fact,
Yeah, but here it's almost the same. Yes, it has its own carbon, but I mean, okay, you would agree. You do mention it.
This is the first place where, like, we make davening short. Like, what happened to Judaism?
Why all of a sudden would you leave it out when it is actually Rosh Chodesh? But again, Rosh Hashanah. Let's not forget, Rosh Hashanah is Rosh Chodesh. So it's sort of a little overkill. Okay.
Yeah, well, whole day of davening. You talking about overkill?
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I hear your point, but yeah, there definitely is a lot of discussion here in the Rishonim about this whole issue. Okay, not the simplest Gemara in the world. Okay, let's keep going. V'kol atzma tanohi, and this issue of kolel, we're not talking about making kolel because clearly we do that in Klal Yisrael. Baruch Hashem, at least I think at 5 of them now. Okay, but. So the issue of koil, meaning do you roll in a mention of a day into the rest of the davening, or do you give it its own identity? That itself is a machlokas tanoim. It's not so clear cut. The Tanya, as learned in the Brisa, Shabbos Chaliyas Rosh Chodesh, the very issue that we just mentioned, when Shabbos Rosh Chodesh overlap, happens fairly often. Or a Shabbos overlaps with Chol Moed, which of course happens again a lot. So what do? Arvis Shachris Mincha Mispal Kedarkai. So Arvis Shachris Mincha, the 3 fundamental davenings of every single day get set in a normal way. Okay, Kedarkai Sheva. Okay, V'oimer Me'ein Me'ura B'Avodah. And whether it's Rosh Chodesh or Chol Moed, that aspect of what it is mentioned in Meina Me'ura, in Yalav V'Yovo, in Avoda, in Ritzei. So you add Yalav V'Yovo and Ritzei. The regular Shemona Esrei stays intact as it normally is, okay, which is exactly what we do. Right? We don't change the nature of Shachris, Mincha, and Ma'ariv on Rosh Chodesh or on Chol Moed. We say exactly the regular thing, but we add Yalav V'Yovo. Rabbi Eliezer says you add it into modim. You don't add into it. Say we don't do this. You add into modim. So, and we know if you don't say it, oops, that's a fatal flaw, and you have to go back. You start with Shabbos, a regular Shabbos musaf, and you end when you end the musaf of Shabbos, you don't touch the Shemona Esrei either. You have the regular Musaf Shemona Esrei of Shabbos, and when you end the bracha, you say Mekadesh HaShabbos v'Yisrael v'Hazmanim, or you say Mekadesh Yisrael Rosh Chodoshim, something along those lines. V'Yom Kedusha Yom Be'emsa. Okay, I'm sorry. I take that back. Shabbos, you end the bracha Mekadesh Shabbos. You say the sanctity in the middle of the bracha. You reference it in the middle of the bracha, but you do not. Doesn't seem like you give it its end. Statement. You don't reference it. Okay, then. Let's do the Rashi for a minute. We got to call it. Is that really the case that it's taka koilo? So we'll have to pick this up tomorrow.